Hi, my name is Taufiq. I'm a student at Virginia Tech, and I'll be presenting our paper on conversational AI to support Think-Aloud practice in technical interview preparation. To begin with, technical interviews is a specific job interview that requires candidates to write code that solve programming challenges while simultaneously think aloud or think out loud. And think aloud involves verbalizing what interviewee's reasoning and problem-solving approach to the interviewer while working through a coding task. And this is matters because interviewers evaluate not only technical ability, but also how candidates approach problems and communicate their thought process. And this often becomes a major source of stress for candidates. Despite all of those challenges, common preparation tools still not support think-aloud practice. For example, like LeetCode or HackerRank, they focus only on problem solving without facilitating think-aloud practice. A better alternative is leveraging conversational AI for interview practice, and this has been shown by prior works that LLM-based conversational AI can facilitate interview practice, such as simulating interview scenario, using AI as a mock interviewers to practice with, or using AI to get feedback from an interview practice. However, existing research on conversational AI has largely focused on general interview practice and communication training, leaving the specific domain of technical interview practice underexplored. Therefore, our study tried to bridge this gap by exploring conversational AI for technical interview practice. So formally, our research questions is how do users perceive the role of conversational AI for think-aloud practice in technical interview preparation? To answer the research questions, we developed a technology probe in the form of an LLM-based technical interview tool to better elicit users' insights on how AI can support think-aloud practice. Our tools has three main components. First one is technical interview simulation, where user can have a mock technical interview with an AI interviewer that they can communicate with. And secondly, there is AI feedback that they can get after the practice. And third one is AI generated example dialogue that shows how to communicate during technical interviews. And this is the details of our user interface. So first, for the technical interview simulation, it provides a platform for users to simulate a technical interview experience through a voice-based natural conversations that use speech-to-text and text-to-speech technologies. And then we design the interaction flow to mimic a typical technical interview, beginning with the AI interviewer asking questions, followed by user responses. And also during these interactions, users can type code in the code editor while verbally think aloud, explaining their thoughts and solutions. Then for the feedback, we use LLM to provide feedback on users on how they communicate their problem-solving approach based on the interview simulation transcript. And we intentionally made the feedback feature simple as this because our purpose of building this tool is just for a contextual anchor for users to think more on what kind of feedback that they actually want. And then lastly, our third feature is AI generated think aloud example dialogue, which provides an AI generated dialogues that shows how to think aloud and how to communicate during technical interviews for each coding problem. And the goal of this feature is to help users learn from examples that relevant to their current tasks and so that they can better articulate their thought process during technical interviews. And this feature also includes a step-by-step code solution alongside the dialog, which its utterance is played sequentially and accompanied by the voice output. So after we built the tool, we conducted a user study, which basically we asked participants to use the tool and then followed that by semi-structured interviews to gather user insights on what they think on using AI for thinking aloud practice. And our participants include computer science students with varied interview experience. And now let's talk about the findings that we categorize based on each features and also some additional findings that we will talk at the end. So first, regarding the technical interview simulations, in general, users felt that AI could support their think aloud process through interactive conversation. And they found that this is more helpful than rubber ducking, which is basically just explaining their reasoning to a sort of like imaginary object. And like in contrast, when they use this tool, by having AI interactively response, they felt like it's more engaging and felt like a quick feedback where they can see if their explanation can be understood with AI or not. And on the other side, users also expressed some concerns that the AI interviewers sometimes seem to be overly positive, which means that regardless of how well users explain their answer, the AI tend to respond in a positive and encouraging way by default. And this is very different from like real interviewers, which sometimes maybe some interviewers will not that engaging or not that positive for every scenarios. So users suggested that to add features to customize the AI personas to reflect diverse interviewer styles where maybe some interviewers may be like less interactive and more challenging. Regarding the second feature, which is the feedback, we identified some user preference on what kind of feedback that they need. And one of the feedback that they mentions is about feedback on balancing the time between thinking, talking, and coding. Because this particular user said that they don't know when they should be talking and coding during the technical interviews, and they also wonder if they're thinking for too long in silence, so that they want to know how to split the time between those three things while doing the technical interviews. The feedback is presented is also important. Users suggested to frame the feedback from a third person interviewer perspective rather than directly from AI, even though it's still an AI feedback. So, for example, instead of say that you need to do this in your technical interviews, it's better to say some interviewers might think that it's better for you to do this. Like, yeah. And then for the third feature, which is the AI generated example dialogues, users think that these examples allow them to vicariously learn and use it as a self evaluation, and they think that seeing example dialogues are much more helpful than just seeing logical explanation on how to solve the problems. However, since it is AI generated, this examples dialogue tend to be too perfect and makes it unrealistic for them. So this suggests that instead of using AI examples, we can use some kind of human AI collaborative crowdsourcing approach, which basically, if let's say we deploy this tool publicly, then people can have interview simulation with AI, and then like they can share those um, sessions with other people publicly, and also accompanied by the AI feedback. So this method sort of like combining um, the human aspect, which is based on how users answer the technical interviews with AI, but also has the AI explanations to make users better learn from it. And then lastly, we also identified some additional findings, such as people did appreciate having this tool as a way to provide equal access, since some of people may not have friends to practice with, and they think having this kind of tool help them to practice more on technical interviews. Uh, Although we argue that this tool shouldn't be a replacement for peer practice, and I will like explain this more later in the discussion section. And then secondly, some people also face additional challenges during the technical interview practice. For example, like not having confidence to talk as a non-native speaker, and they are sometimes able to catch this behavior, even though like we can't see this as a feature because they are able to like catch this behavior from users and identify that as something like not confident, but users think that sometimes there should be a room for error instead of like always criticizing every aspect of the communication. Lastly, for the discussion sections, in our paper we mentioned some keep some discussions. However, here we will just talk about one the most important discussion point of our paper that also relevant to the theme of this um, conference, which is about human AI collaboration. So if you try to rethinking the role of AI in technical interview practice, a lot of prior works in this domain has mainly focused on developing AI as a standalone practice partners, which also including our work. Even though it's also uh, has some benefits on it, like it provides users safe space to practice by themselves. However, should the primary goal of the systems be to entirely replace human practice partners? And to answer this, we also got some findings from our user study, and some users say that they still prefer to practice with friends because it is more enjoyable and experience a stronger human connection. However, they also acknowledge the limitations of practicing with peers. For example, these users state that practicing with peer is more laid back because there is no one pressuring you and they usually don't give great feedback. So instead of using AI as a replacement for practice partners, sometimes it can we can also consider um, human AI collaboration approach that leverage the potentials of both AI and human partners. So for example, this particular user suggests that instead of just relying on the AI, we can have the interview going on between two people, and then the AI can give the feedback. And another thing is that, for example, we can use AI as a co-pilot or as a guidance for um, the the human partners to know what kind of questions that they should ask to the other to their friends, or like what kind of follow-up questions to be asked during the technical interview practice. So yeah, that's all my presentations. Thank you.